joining and tuning into our virtual. Hello, and thank you for joining and tuning into our virtual TechEd session. My name is Waldemar Befort. I'm part of the S4HANA cross-product management team, and I'm glad to have my colleague Michael Rieker joining me today. In today's session, we're going to cover the SAP best practice architecture for master data integration between SAP solutions. We're going to see the SAP BTP MDI service, the concept, supported business objects, and last but not least, we're also going to see a customer example where the BTP MDI service is used for a bidirectional integration of business partners between S4HANA Public Cloud and Ariba Solutions. Michael, you want to cover the first part?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Waldemar, for your introduction. Let's get started with a general overview of SAP Master Data Integration Service before having a look to your customer use case. So, as you know, the Intelligent Enterprise Suite is mostly defined by the intelligent business processes, like lead to cash, source to pay, recruit to retire, and design to operate. These business processes span across multiple business applications, like in SAP S4HANA, SAP Fieldglass, SuccessFactors, and SAP Concur. To ensure that these business processes run smoothly, the SAP invests into the so-called suite qualities. And one of the suite qualities is the aligned domain model. So, considering the SAP aligned domain model, SAP Master Data Integration Service is providing business applications and helping to get a harmonized view on master data across the entire system landscape. So, to see how this is looking like in practice, let's have a look at this very example here. SAP Master Data Integration Service follows a so-called hub and spoke model, meaning it is a central integration point which is available for the applications to integrate with. What you can see on this example here, on the very left side, there's an SAP S4HANA Cloud creating a cost center and sending this cost center object to the service. SAP Fieldglass and the SAP SuccessFactors, how we call it the downstream clients, are basically retrieving the data from the service. In this case, they retrieve a copy of the object of the cost center. So that's probably not really spectacular, but the benefit comes if there are more master data object types and more applications to integrate.
And Michael, I know exactly how difficult it is to integrate SAP solutions. It was and still is a quite challenging space.
Absolutely. So, having a look to the guiding principles of SAP Master Data Integration Service, we currently do have the situation that customer system landscapes are very complex and hard to maintain due to various different point-to-point integrations. We want to achieve a more centralized approach where SAP Master Data Integration Service serves as a hub in the middle. So this overall leads to a reduced maintenance since there's only one standardized way to integrate with the service, and additionally it leads to an improved consistency due to the underlying principle of every connected client and downstream client is getting the same state of an object. So, and this is even enabling new business scenarios, since existing landscapes can be added to the system landscape, to the service uniformly. And hence, this is a pretty good step to reduce the overall effort in terms of creating new integration scenarios.
Cool.
But there's not only standardization happening in terms of the way to integrate with the service, the protocol, so to say, but there's also a second component to it, which is the SAP One Domain Model. The SAP One Domain Model is used to exchange the data, meaning it is describing how the models looking like that are sent to the service. So instead of having the situation where applications that want to integrate with each other have to find the mapping in between the different data models, they now only have to provide a single mapping from their local persisted suite to the SAP One Domain Model. So, and this decouples from application specifics. SAP developed SAP One Domain Model by bringing all the SAP solutions and applications together to verify that the relevant data is content of the integration objects. And this is also a well-defined semantic. So imagine, this also enables the creation of new business system ecosystem.
So I totally get the value of unifying the data model between SAP applications. I guess no one would doubt that. But what do you mean by the ecosystem term?
in this sense, with a business ecosystem, I mean, MDI is acting as an operator in the middle, right? As the central integration hub, and connecting the business applications to it and getting a harmonized and consistent view of the master data. You can even create new end-to-end processes and getting value out of it. A third guiding principle is that the SAP Master Data Integration Service provides out-of-the-box integration and serve as a basis for that, meaning that SAP applications come with a kind of developed and predefined integration into the service. So that the customer in the end actually only needs to be left with the task to identify which master data goes to which application. And let's say the cumbersome work can be done by SAP. So as you can see here, there are already a bunch of existing integrations available for different applications and the various object types. But we're continuously extending them. You can also get more information on the help.sap.com page in the MDI help page.
Michael, it's good to see we are supporting so many business objects meanwhile with MDI. What would be the answer for a customer with non-SAP applications?
Yeah, that's a good point, and actually directly leading to my next slide here. So, although there are already many integrations available, an out-of-the-box integration is not always available. But also for this purpose, there is a feature in place, and SAP Integration Suite can be utilized. So SAP ECC, SAP S/4HANA, and non-SAP applications can be integrated via the SAP Integration Suite. So the cloud integration capability of the SAP Integration Suite is providing an MDI adapter implementation that can be used to create integration flows and includes also a UI to map application-specific models to the SAP One Domain model. And since the SAP Integration Suite is also an SAP-branded cloud application, the consumption of SAP Master Data Integration Service for those kind of integrations is for free. So you even do not have to pay more.
I like.
So let me come to my very last topic before handing over to you and your customer use case, which is about SAP Master Data Governance and the interconnection or the difference to SAP Master Data Integration Service. I mean, obviously, both deal with master data, but they both serve different purposes. As seen in this out-of-the-box integration and the various ways to integrate with the service, SAP Master Data Governance, on the one hand, provides a generic replication mechanism and supports all those master data object types. Whereas SAP Master Data Governance, on the one hand, is focusing on the most important, let's say, master data domains. So, for example, the business partner, the material, and the financial master data. On the other hand, SAP Master Data Governance is also providing further data quality management capabilities to improve the master data within your system landscape. And this is namely consolidation, a central governance, and data quality management capabilities. So overall, SAP Master Data Governance can be used on top of SAP Master Data Integration Service, using the service as a replication mechanism and providing additional means and improve the data quality within the system landscape. So right now, we are also extending this support of the scenario in that way that we do not only provide a pure replication mechanism, but additionally support a multi-writer scenario in combination with MDG and seeing MDG or Master Data Governance as the owner of the master data within the system landscape. But that's actually it from my side. Let's have a look into your customer use case. Waldemar, it's your turn.
Thank you, Michael, for setting the scene. So, we actually decided to pair the technical content with a bit of a business context. As you just said, we prepared a real-life customer example where a customer has been using the SAP Master Data Integration Service to actually realize a bidirectional integration between S/4HANA Public Cloud and different SAP Ariba solutions. Before going into details, I thought let's quickly understand the discipline of supplier master data and supplier master data management, because actually actively managing the supplier base became more and more important. Actually, it even became more and more strategic, a strategic procurement function over the last couple of decades. Because companies understood that knowing the supplier and having good data quality on your supplier just doesn't just help you with a stable supply chain and maybe sustainability use cases, but actually developing your supplier, educating your supplier on your needs, on your solutions, products, services that you want to sell, actually helps you getting a source of innovations into your company. Right? So you want to actually understand your suppliers, you want to develop them, because could be a key differentiator to your business at some point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's 3 points to mention in this context. On the one hand, you want to make sure that you have a good data quality, right? For that, you need to define a data source, you need to define the leading system, and you want to make sure that your solutions are fully integrated with that master data. Yeah? So data quality is key. Second, the times are gone when you collaborated business documents with your suppliers via email. Right? Nowadays, you want to digitize, you want to automate the flows, so you would want to onboard your suppliers and connect with your suppliers via a business network like the SAP Business Network, because this is where the economy of scale comes into the picture. Right? You connect once, but then you have your hopefully a bigger number of suppliers actively using the business network, so you can automate in a wider scale. Mm-hmm. And second, once you defined a comprehensive data set for the business partner, and the business partner itself can be a quite complex master data object, right, with a lot of elements, you can start thinking of which of the data elements are elements which you might want to outsource from a data management perspective, right? Because things like bank information, contact details, certificates is something you as a buyer, you don't know, right? When they might change. Suppliers know. So you want actually to empower your suppliers to maintain that master data on behalf, right? And for the supplier, the benefit is, since they act via a business network, they maintain it once, and they actually replicate that data and keep it updated into their buyer ecosystem, if you like.
Okay, I understand.
So on that slide, we see the high-level system landscape of the customer landscape ultimately. On the left side, we see the S/4HANA Public Cloud Edition. We see in the middle the Ariba SLP, which is the Supply Lifecycle and Performance Management module. And we see the Ariba Source and Pay Suite, which is basically Ariba applications like sourcing, contracts, and buying. On top, you see the SAP Business Network. And on the left side, we also see the MDI Data Integration Service. So ultimately, this is the landscape that the customer implemented to manage supplier as a master data, but also replicating suppliers into the different modules. And each module comes with a certain, let's say, quality in this process of data management. S/4HANA, obviously the system of records, and usually that's the clean source that you want to keep clean. Ariba SLP is technically speaking a microservice into the Ariba solutions, which consume the business partner data records. And SLP is also tightly interconnected with the business network. So this is basically the connection to the outside world. The business network is where suppliers would have an account and could log in, consume documents like purchase orders, flip the purchase order into the order confirmation, create invoices, but also actually maintain the supplier business partner elements, which you as a buyer can define and release, let's say, for maintenance, including things like certificates. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. MDI, in that sense, was and is basically the data hub, if you like, for the business partner. It's a bidirectional flow between S/4HANA and Ariba SLP. And SLP to the Ariba apps is a unidirectional integration. On the next slide, we see basically the process flow. And to start with, let's look at the supplier request and creation process. So what we see on the left side is, again, the modules, right? You have a business network, you have the Ariba SLP module, BTP, MDI service, and the S/4HANA system. process itself for master data management in this case always starts with the need of, you have users that might need a new supplier, right? It just doesn't exist, but you don't want to just open up your systems and say, okay, create whatever you need. There might also be fraud behind, right? You don't want your users to create their relatives as a supplier. So you want to guide them with a form for any new supplier requests. In that case, technically, it would be possible to realize either within Ariba SLP or within S4HANA. In this case, the customer decided to use Ariba SLP. And that's the gate, the entry point for the supplier requests. The supplier request obviously ends up with a duplicate check because you want to avoid to have duplicates. At the end, you could put an approval. Usually, this is where the supplier collaboration starts. You would send an invite via email to your supplier, and the supplier can click a link via the email invite and either register to the business network, or if they have already an account, use that existing account and actually maintain and update the invitation. Once this is done, it's possible to deposit specific qualification questionnaires where you basically ask your supplier, hey, please fill out for a specific region, for a specific product category, and you are able to qualify that supplier much more specific, for the needs that you might have. So again, the collaboration happens between the business network and SLP, and once approved, this is basically the point in time when you have a supplier that can be used in transactions. Yeah. Technically speaking, it's possible to replicate that supplier candidate into your S4HANA system at different stages. It's basically up to the customer, how soon you kind of want to update your S4HANA with that new supplier. And obviously you want to keep S4HANA as clean as possible. So usually probably you would do it rather later than sooner in the flow. Okay. Another flavor of data replication in this case is there could be the need for supplier data maintenance, right? So think of mass data updates. Obviously, they could happen either from S4HANA side or from SLP/business network side. And again, MDI is the gate that connects the two sides, and make sure that both follow the unified domain model and speak the same language. Now, let's quickly conclude on the customer projects, and obviously everything started with some business needs. So the customer came to SAP saying, okay, we want to actively manage suppliers, from onboarding to phase out. We want to make sure the process is fully automated and we have visibility into the flows. We don't want to come up with some custom integration. We expect SAP to provide a best practice integration. And the ultimate business goal was obviously, prevent maverick spend to ensure that you have process compliance in place across the full flow. The solution that has been implemented ultimately was using the MDI, BTP MDI service for the bidirectional integration, as we've just seen. It allowed the end-to-end automation, and ultimately the customer also managed to integrate with their suppliers over the business network and outsource certain master data maintenance activities to the supplier, where they are in better hands than on the buyer side. So yeah, ultimately the business value which they achieved was process efficiency, better data quality. They managed actually also to drastically reduce the onboarding cycle time for a new supplier, right? From the supplier request to actually the point in time where you can start using the supplier in your transactional systems. And yeah, it was a good success. Now, we're actually, for more information, obviously you can, we recommend using the api.sap.com. That's the source for any type of information on integration content, enterprise architecture content. Yeah, we are done with the standard content of the presentation, and I'd like to open to Q&A.
Live Q&A.
Okay, so yeah, let me just start with the very first question
Sure.
here.
Go ahead, Mike.
Is the standard Oh, that now disappeared. Okay, then we just take another one. So if we integrate MDI with MDG for replicating master data instead of traditional MDG point-to-point integration, can we track the replication status of each target system? So, I mean, MDI currently right now does not provide any UI to the user so that you can see what kind of master data is actually within MDI. On the one hand, we have those different connected lights, the providing system and the consuming system. And if you want to get the data which is available within the system landscape, it depends also on the different distribution models. So this is the models that you need to set up to identify which data goes into which system. And so you need to check currently the system itself to know which data is available in the system landscape. However, we also know that this is kind of homework we have to do, right? Because it's not obvious for the customer and the users to identify which data is within MDI. So this is also one of our current focus topics we are working on to provide the customers and the users a possibility within MDI, so within the UI of MDI, which is called the master data orchestration, to provide capabilities and functionalities to see which data is within MDI. You can track the replication status. Yes, there is a possibility in the master data orchestration system to see if there is a replication running and what the current status is. And since this distribution model, how we call it, is defined for every single master data object type on the one hand, and for the receiving client on the other hand, this is also, of course, then for each target system. So the next question is, can MDI support custom master data? That's the question one. So I would say to a certain degree, yes. I mean, there are capabilities available to extend the current one domain model, how we call it. So these aligned domain models, do we call the one domain model, and they can be extended to a certain degree. I mean, since this extension is not only depending on MDI itself, but of course also to the applications that are connected to MDI. It also depends on their current implementation. I mean, if you want to get more information on that, you definitely have to check out the documentation itself. But at least to a certain degree, yes, you can extend the models to your custom needs. The second question: does MDI act as a fan-out that now appeared?
It's gone again. Yeah. Maybe I take the last one and then you take the other one. Yeah, so one question is, do we have documentation of the specific scenarios that should be covered with MDI? Indeed, yeah. So, I mean, technically speaking, MDI is a technical service, right? And it always lives from the consumption and usage by the applications. So as a starting point, usually you decide which scenario you want to implement, and you usually follow the documentation of that specific, let's say, application integration scenario. So let's say in the case of business partner integration with Ariba SLP, you would actually usually start using the documentation on the SLP side. And obviously there's sections that guide you through the different steps that you need to do, and would also have an interlink, to the MDI documentation where needed.
Yeah. And probably one additional remark here, as we're almost running out of time. If you want to get more information about the SAP recommended architecture with respect to those intelligent enterprise scenarios, you can always check out the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, previously known as the API Hub, and there you can get information about the business processes. And then just clicking down into this documentation, there you can find information about how to exchange master data, and then you can also get an idea on which technology to be used. That's it. Thanks from our side. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good evening.
Thank you for joining.
Rest of the day.
Enjoy the TechEd. Bye-bye.